It's time to take your business to the next level, the boss level. These are the premier business owner strategies and successes being utilized by the industry's top talent today. Rock your business like a boss, a VO boss. Now let's welcome your host, Ann Ganguza.
Hey everyone, welcome to the VO Boss Podcast, the AI and voice series. I'm your host, Ann Ganguza, and today I am honored to have my special guests, the dynamic duo, team of Simone Kliass and Jason Bermingham, to talk about digital voice technologies and new opportunities for voice actors. So a little bit about Simone. She is a voiceover specialist, which I love that title because I used to be in my old, back in the corporate days, I was a computer vision specialist. So voiceover specialist and XR researcher, and also she's the curator and creator of Pixel Voice, which is Brazil's leading voiceover conference. She's also a founding member and VP of the Brazilian Cross Reality Association, XRBR, and acts as a lead ambassador for Women in Voice and offers consulting services through Edge Studio. Her husband, Jason Bermingham, is an American voice artist and producer who specializes in English language narration for the Latin American market. He's consulted for Emmy-winning films, coached for Oscar-nominated directors, and travels and gives talks and workshops with Simone. You guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us. It's an honor for us.
Thank you for making us sound so important, Ann.
You are important. You guys are so important. And what I love is not only are you important, but you are techies. And everybody that knows me knows that I love talking tech. So you guys are like my perfect duo to talk about all things new and cool in the voice and AI realm and beyond. So before we get to the tech stuff, how did you guys meet?
Well,
was it a mutual tech thing or no?
it kind of ties into our conversation today because we met when we were both working for a pay TV channel called CMT, Country Music Television. And I was the operations manager. I came down to Brazil and I was responsible for building the studios, and Simone was on air. And we met there and became friends and then eventually started dating, and Simone pulled me into the voiceover market. But it's been interesting to watch the evolution of the television industry from pay TV in that day, because back then pay TV was the bad thing because it was new and it was taking away people from public TV. And now the pay TV market is gone. The pay TV market isn't gone, but it has changed a lot since we worked
absolutely.
in it 20 years ago.
Yeah. And so let's talk then a little bit about the evolution of technology and what you actually presented at VO Atlanta, what people consider to be the evil tech threat. I know everyone that knows me knows my stand, but I'd love to hear your opinions. So will the new tech that is out there take away our jobs?
Okay, so we present a 1 hour talk on this subject. I will do a very short version for you. So yeah, we agree with you. What do you think, Anne, about this subject? You have doing a great job presenting for everybody. The podcast is amazing. I'm a big fan.
Thank you.
So congrats. Yes,
Thank
you're
you.
doing a wonderful job. So yeah, they are getting better. The synthetic voice every single day, and they are here to stay, So in some cases, they have already stolen our jobs. Christy Bowen has just written an article about how she lost an e-learning job for them. So I don't think that they are a good fit for this kind of work, but it's happening already. It's
I agree.
there.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the times, they are used in content that has short lifespan, like blog posts, conversational interfaces, when these interfaces read the weather, news headlines, any kind of content that is generated on the fly or in a short space of time.
Yeah, I think what we talk a lot about in our presentation is that when you need a human connection, when you need a text that connects with the listener at a very human level, you can't really replace that with an AI voice yet. And I don't think that'll happen I don't think that will ever happen, actually.
I don't either. I'd be interested to ask you why you don't think it'll ever happen. I don't think it will either. I think it's going to get close, though.
Well, real quickly, I think for me, it's two reasons. One is that the synthetic voices, and you and your husband, you work with AI, so you understand this. It's kind of like smoke and mirrors a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, it's really just put on top of the existing AI. And a lot of times the existing AI isn't even close to getting to the point where it can, react and listen and respond
Right.
as human beings do. And we're so good at that because we do that from like Simone talks about in the presentation. We hear voices before we're born. We hear our
Yeah.
mother's voice. So it's in our DNA. And for us to imitate that, through a machine, I can't see us doing that anytime.
It's an imitation. I was just going to say, and I think maybe as humans, because we're the ones developing the technology, right? There's a certain level I think we're going to get to. And then, there's a level that I think that the marketplace will accept. And then anything beyond that becomes kind of a gray area where, it could be really, really close. But then all of a sudden, like, let's say you were talking about it's great for short-term narration or short-term things, which I totally agree, or things that people aren't expecting to have a human voice. But if it gets to that point where I have to, in the middle of after 5 minutes, go, oh, wait, what? Was that? And then the trust issue is like, wait, I thought I was listening to a human, but now I realize that kind of sounds like an AI voice. And so you lose trust. And that is I think a huge thing between human to human interaction and even sales and advertising, right? You've got to have that trust.
Yeah, and you lose not only the trust, but the connection.
Yeah.
Human connection, the empathy, the contest. They are not good on at contest. So they can use some things to add emotion, but it's not the right emotion in the right time. It's not the right answer. And so there's limits. Still, there's a limit. So, and another thing that we talk about in our presentations, that when we start to worry that virtual voices are going to make our craft obsolete, it's important to remember just how good we are and what we do. A voice talent is paid to do what not even other humans can do. A good voiceover creates a human connection, like I said. So that's a talent that most people do not possess. So if other humans aren't going to steal your job, you don't have to worry about virtual voices booking your next gig yet. We don't know until when.
I like to think, and this is just me, the tech girl, I have an optimistic view of technology, and I think that AI voices can be used for good. I want to believe that companies will use them for good, and ultimately we will, as a society, evolve to that. If I think otherwise, well, that's just depressing, number one. But it keeps me from evolving my business, and I think that's so important because gosh, we've seen it throughout the years as technology evolves, like you were talking about, Jason. You can't really stop it. It's just going to happen anyway. So why not just kind of evolve with it? And that's always been my attitude. And I have to really look for how I can work with it to be successful. And that's it. And if the market evolves, the market evolves. I mean, I think as entrepreneurs, and this is, look, I'm not going to talk doom and gloom, but what if the voiceover industry, what if the bottom fell out and that's it? We were done. We were, AI voices took over. I would hope to think that we've become good enough entrepreneurs, right, in our businesses that we've already thought about that and we've evolved. And the fact that we can be a successful entrepreneur means that if it's not voiceover, it's going to be the next thing, right? And that's what I hope that we all educate ourselves on that.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way of looking at it. Because I'm like you, Anna. I love technology. And I get really excited about things that are new. And
I do.
When I see Google coming out with this new, when they launched Duplex and they were saying how, intuitive it was and how realistic it was, I was excited and I wanted to see what it was all about. But I think what it comes down to is what you said about transparency and honesty. Because if you know, for example, if I have a subscription to hear the news read to me every day as it comes out in real time, and I know that's an AI voice doing that because they just don't have the manpower to, that's okay because I'm listening for the information. I don't want an emotional connection. I just want to hear what's in the news. And I know.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that's okay if it's not perfect. But suddenly, if it's an audiobook and I'm on the treadmill, then I want that human connection. And so I'll prefer to listen to an audiobook that's read to me by a very talented voiceover artist.
And e-learning.
And e-learning, because, you're talking about, employees.
You're educating people and you have to have a connection.
Oh, thank you for saying that. You're my hero now for saying that, because there's so many people saying, oh, it's going to take over e-learning. I'm like, oh my goodness. Like, the problem with e-learning so far has been that there hasn't been a connection typically. And I always said, well, I blame the narrators for that because there's a lot of people that just simply read the material articulate and pretty, and they didn't really think about the human connection. There's a student taking your class there, and you have to have that human connection. And that's, every day, if I'm doing an e-learning project, that's what's happening for me. And yes, there will be people that if they don't have the budget, right, maybe an AI voice will suffice, right? Like you're saying, if you're just transparent, part of that, people that the low-hanging fruit, if they don't have the budget and an AI voice will get that material online, and it's important for school, because I've worked for 20 years for schools, I know how the budgets are. Sometimes there isn't a budget, and I get that. And I would rather that it's out there. I mean, of course, I want the human teacher, but I think that it has its place, and especially in short form, Simone, like you were saying, like let's say maybe if I didn't understand the meaning of a word, I could click on the word and then a little AI voice would come up and give me the definition, and it would just be short. But in those cases where you need the connection, I think that we're going to be hired for that.
Yes. But I love the aspect that you say that we are an entrepreneur. So we are bigger than that. So
Yes.
Of course we love and we don't want to lose our jobs, and we have been studying and practicing and being so good in what we do. We don't want to lose that. But okay, let's go with the flow and let's learn with them. And the new technology brings new opportunities to us, of course. So
And Simone, I'd love to let's talk about the new technology opportunities other than, let's say, AI, but that we as voice artists can find work, because I know you've done a lot of it yourself with the cross reality, virtual reality. Tell us a little bit about some of that technology.
Okay, I'm a big fan of cross reality. As you told, I'm the VP of XRBR Association in Brazil, and I think it's a wonderful area for us because the director in an immersive experience and a virtual reality experience doesn't have the total control of where participants turn their attention during a virtual reality experience. So the narration, the sound, and the spatial audio are helpful tools. So it's a new frontier for us to explore, and they need English. All the content had to have one version in English. Even in the line that I recorded in Portuguese, and then Rodrigo Santoro recorded in English. He's a Brazilian actor, but he recorded in English. And this piece won a Primetime Emmy last year, So
Wow.
it's a Brazilian company, and we earned this prize, a Primetime Emmy.
That's
with
amazing.
A virtual reality experience made in Brazil.
And I think the voice is so important in these technologies, right? Because we're looking for experiences that are all encompassing, right? That are believable and authentic. And I don't think, like you said, not everybody is a great voiceover actor, right? Not everybody can do these. Like, this is what we do. This is what we're great at. We are actors. And I think that in order to make great voices in these new technologies, you have to be a great voice actor. Not everybody can do that at all. So I think that's where we can be of some great help.
Yes, and there's other opportunities too. I just talk about VR, but that's mixed reality, augmented reality, metaverse that I love, interactive theater, as well as audio-only formats like augmented audio and 3D podcasts, just to give few examples. Jason has another.
Yeah, let's define some of those. Maybe some of our bosses have not heard of these technologies or are aware. What is actually the difference between augmented reality, virtual reality, metaverse, all that good stuff?
Okay.
In a nutshell.
Simple. In a nutshell.
In a nutshell.
Augmented reality applies. Jay, I'll speak in Portuguese because it's very technical.
Yes.
And you translate for me. A realidade aumentada aplica uma realidade, elementos digitais na realidade física.
She said Pokemon Go.
Good one.
No, you add digital elements in the
To a physical environment.
To a physical
But
environment.
that's like Poke Van Go, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a good example.
And that is your augmented reality.
Yeah, virtual reality, it's a totally digital experience where the viewer has to be totally inside. It's totally computer generated, and you have to wear glasses, goggles to be part of this. And mixed reality is so difficult to define. It's like augmented reality, but much more complex. In Portuguese, I know how to explain that. It's like, oh my God.
The HoloLens would be mixed reality, right? Where it puts things on it'll put like pictures on the wall and they stay in that position as you move your head around. And so it mixes elements. It mixes elements of your real life, but it kind of remembers it and reads that environment that you're in to be able to, return to that and make changes accordingly.
So the metaverse, there's a lot of definition, but refers to a collective, persistent, 3D, virtual, shared spaces where humans are as avatars interact with each other. Fortnite,
yeah.
Yep, gotcha.
Yeah, we call microverse, but yeah, it's a good definition for.
Because Simone's idea with Fortnite is that we see a lot of entertainers are already starting to kind of tap into that revenue stream, not just by incorporating dances and skins, but by actually performing. And so in a metaverse where we're all at home and we're all engaging in these environments, in theory, we could work as presenters or hosts or just anything.
Not in theory. We are doing that already.
Yeah, we're doing that because your avatar can be anything, but your voice is yours. And so that voice is your main tool.
Like in a virtual interactive theater, in the metaverse also.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what this ties into a lot is, like you were saying, Anne, with the, like e-learning, for example. It's really important that we don't focus on the opportunities lost and suddenly we start looking at the opportunities gained. Because, of course, the AI voices may take some of our work, but there's so much other work that's coming up that we can do now that we couldn't do before. A simple example is a lot of the e-learning we record here is done with avatars. So you can get like a super simple face recognition app on your mobile phone. And as you're recording your VO, it's doing your face movements. So suddenly you can put your face movements on an avatar and it becomes an animation in an e-learning video. So for the production company, they're saving money because they've got the voiceover talent now doing the motion cap.
Right.
And it's really easy to do, but that's something we couldn't do before. And now it's a new revenue stream. So that's what we're trying to do, is look for those new revenue streams and really jump at those opportunities.
Augmented audio as well. It's like an audiobook, more immersive.
Yeah.
It's a new opportunity.
It's a new way of doing audiobooks or podcasts or things that we've always done, but in a new way. Those are the opportunities we're looking for, the work that's coming in, not the work that's being taken.
Okay, so then now that there's new technologies and new work is coming in, the question of the hour, how do you find it, or how do you get in front of the companies so that we can best show them, I'm a voice talent and I can help you elevate your brand or elevate your product? How do we find it and how do we get in front of it?
I think you should look for jobs all over the world. As I mentioned, the line is a Brazilian experience and they needed a voice actor in English. So this kind of production are all over the world. So go to festivals, go to game festivals and clubhouse sessions. Look for jobs in not obvious places where you...
Like maybe not VO Atlanta. I'm not just saying that because VO Atlanta, not just voiceover conferences, right? Go to conferences that are talking about the technology, like CES. That would be CES here, or stuff like that. But South by Southwest.
South by Southwest, yeah, of course. We always go to South by Southwest. And okay, but I'm a huge fan of Yo Atlanta. I think we should. I think we should go to both. You know.
Oh yeah,
We
I am too. I was just saying that we can't just limit ourselves to voiceover conferences. You're right. In order to find these opportunities, because these opportunities don't necessarily come to voiceover conferences to talk about there. You really need to go out. And I remember, gosh, it was a while ago, but I used to be able to go to CES every single year, and I loved it because it was just like, for me, it was like all the technology. And I could just go out there and meet people and just talk about what I do. And, it just was always a wonderful opportunity for me to see what's out there and to figure out how I could best serve another business with my voice.
Yeah, and globally, we don't have agents. So you can be proactive and look for the jobs. We don't have agents in Brazil, for example.
Right. Yeah, and I think, Anne, another thing is a lot of what we're talking about really kind of takes on almost a spiritual level, because we're talking about what it is to be human. One of the things that works the best for us, for example, with clients is the relationship, the human relationship we have with these clients. We know these people, we've worked with them, they trust us, they know that we're going to deliver. It's easier for them because we've set up that relationship over time. And so one thing you can do is take those clients that you already know well and that you've been working with and add, just one element, some new element to the job that you're already giving them. I gave the example of, maybe add the motion cap for the face if you do an e-learning video. Or maybe say, look, why don't we set up 2 microphones and we can record it in stereo and suddenly it could be like an immersive experience e-learning. Share these ideas with them because a lot of times people are excited about it. And that's one thing that we have that we'll always have that is an advantage over the virtual voices is that we're real. And so it's not just the product we deliver, it's the conversations we have, it's the briefing we receive, it's understanding what they're looking for and giving those real subtle nuances that make the difference in the read. And all of that is what we've really got to focus on, in the future, especially now that we're in this pandemic situation, we're coming out of it and we're kind of going back to seeing people again. I think more than ever, people are going to want that. They're going to want that real human connection and working with people they know. And so those are all things that you got to focus on from here on out that, again, the virtual voices won't ever be able to compete with that.
So I think now that we're, working with companies that we've been working with, what about new companies that are popping up with these technologies? And let's talk a little bit about ethics, because I know, Simone, you're very involved in Women in Voice, and I know that they're working on voices that are out there in technology and diversity, inclusivity. What are your thoughts about when you're working with a company, what sort of ethical guidelines should they follow, and what should we be looking for as voice talent in a company when we want to work with them? I mean, because there's companies popping up all over the place, and not all startup AI companies are necessarily stay. They might get absorbed by other companies. What sort of ethical things do you think a company needs to have that we would want to work with?
Okay, first of all, I think we have to have our ethic guide, and I don't work for a lot of clients, a lot of companies. If I don't trust them, or if I think they are not ethical, or even if I have any suspect, I don't work for them. So I just work for companies that share the same ethical, or at least I trust that they share the same ethical beliefs. They are not going to rob my voice, or they are trying to respect people. I don't know. I think that's important. It's a huge discussion. At South by Southwest, the keynote, Yuval Harari says that all the coders have to study ethics. Everybody involved in AI should study ethics. Everybody. And they are not studying. So we have a lot of problems with gender bias, race bias. So in Women in Voice, we discuss a lot about this, and we try to help companies to understand that this bias exists, because they exist, and they are trying to improve, to make them sensitive or sensible for these questions.
Yes, sensitive.
And help them to change.
Do you think that, I mean, me personally, I guess if I'm looking at companies out there that are offering these voices, these text-to-speech things, I'm always looking on their websites for if they have an ethics policy. I think that's becoming more and more commonplace now for these companies. I'm looking for like terms of service or companies, and especially if I'm auditioning for a job. Number one, if I'm auditioning for, a job that's going to be asking me for a lot of prompts, I'm certainly going to make sure there's a contract involved, or I'm going to be looking at the company that's asking me to do this for them and seeing if they have a terms of service or an ethics statement on their website. Like, I think they need to be obviously free from bias. And I think that we need to be able to protect our audio files and our data, right? And so if we work for a company and we do something like provide text-to-speech prompts and that sort of thing, if that company were to be absorbed by another company or dissolved, our data needs to be destroyed along with that, or we need to be able to have control of that data. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think what we've learned here in 10 years of working with thousands of companies is that for the most part, if a company is ethical and they're doing the right thing, they're more than willing to work with you. If you have questions, they're clear about it. If they have contract questions. So when you work with a company that suddenly it's really kind of hard to get stuff out of them, the contract just seems very convoluted, hire a lawyer or don't be afraid to say no. And we're at the cusp of this new era. Suddenly we're getting control with cryptocurrencies and these NFTs, where you
blockchain.
Blockchain. But especially, I like this idea of the NFTs because it's like you have a digital, you have a way to declare that you own something that doesn't exist. It's just a digital token. And our voice is like that. So maybe in the future, we'll have something more. Yeah, that we'll have something that can identify that as being my voice, and if it ever pops up anywhere, I'll know, and I have to, I'll get charged for that. But right now, we're still at the point where we're signing contracts to say, oh, we can use your voice for this and that, and any new technology that arrives in the future. And you can't sign those contracts anymore because the technology is changing so fast. And so you just got to be very clear how it's going to be used, what's going to be used. The contracts can't be in lawyerese, they got to be easy to understand. And I don't think as voiceover talent, we should be embarrassed about that, about asking questions.
No.
Oh, thank you.
If they don't want to answer them, maybe they're hiding something. I'm not talking that
or
I'm
suspicious.
They
don't understand
they
it
don't
themselves.
understand.
Yeah,
we have to try to help them, to understand. Okay, like all kind of jobs, if somebody asks me to do a quote, I will explain, okay, the usage is this for this time, for this region, for no. I'll do the same with AI companies. And, first of all, I try to explain to them all the things. And we need lawyers. We need to have a lawyer besides us.
And maybe laws also that protect our voice. It's interesting because you were talking about NFTs and stuff. I know there's technology out there right now that is kind of like a vocal footprint, so to speak. It's kind of odd, vocal footprint. But if there's the technology that can take our text-to-speech and then speech-to-speech and then do all of that, we certainly must have technology that can identify our voice if it's being used in other places. And I feel like that would be the technology that I would want to be developed, that would be able to keep track of, well, here's my voice, being used here, especially if it's an AI voice. And if it gets used other places, that there would be some sort of a fingerprint, right? Or a vocal fingerprint or footprint, whatever it is, that would be able to tell that would be mine.
Go for that.
Yeah.
We need that.
Yeah.
There's that technology there. And we just need a person like you to develop that.
Well, I'm going to request it. I can't write it, but I can request it.
Yeah, we need that.
And that sort of technology would be good also for the production companies because they would know when their ads are being aired, where they're being aired, and it would just make it easier to control for everybody.
Yeah, because right now we're on that honor system, right? Like if our voice is used, let's say in a different place than we originally contracted for, or it's being used for longer than we originally put on the contract. I mean, we should be able to find out where. I mean, right now we've relied on other people to say, "Hey, I heard your voice the other day on this channel," and we're like, "What? That shouldn't have been." So yeah, I think there should be a way to track it, and I think that if the technology exists to create these amazing AI voices, there certainly must be the same technology that can be developed to create a vocal footprint or identify.
Yes.
So Good stuff. Wow, guys. So what do you see in the future of this industry? Can we coexist and be friends with our new AI assistants? What do you think?
Oh, Jason has all of them here. Siri, Alexa, all.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I don't use like Jason. Jason is a big, huge fan, right, Jason?
Oh, yeah.
Talk about more your friends.
My friends.
Yeah, sometimes they have a conversation and enter here and they are talking all together, it's a party here, So
Well, from a production standpoint, I was excited, for example, a couple years ago when Adobe was thinking about launching Voco, because I was thinking if I've got all this hundreds of hours of recordings of Simone's voice. Suddenly, if Voco could just use that and figure out how Simone sounds, I wouldn't even have to call her in for little retakes. I could just plug it in and kind of like the script does,
Yeah.
But then you get into all the questions, like you guys were talking
Voice
about, the ethical questions.
Yeah, ethical
voice
questions.
cloning.
Yeah.
And I think that's the reason they didn't launch it, is just we're not there yet with the control.
Right. But I think we're going to have to get there, right? If we want to see this AI voices developed, there's got to be standards set.
Yeah.
And ethics.
yeah, the script is already there.
Yeah.
And there are going to be more and more companies doing that.
Well, it's interesting because I remember like long ago, I learned that they were Lyrebird and then they got acquired by Descript and they became their AI voice overdub. So it's interesting. The technology's been around and it's being developed. And I think Descript probably is one of the largest companies. They're being used quite a bit, I know, in the podcast realm for transcription of audio and video.
And they are going to evolve.
Yep, they will. They will. Wow, guys, it's certainly been an amazing...
And I just have one question.
Yes.
Is this really you?
Oh my God. Yeah, good question, Jason.
I was paying really close attention to the
Why,
voice.
no, it's not.
Ah, you got us.
And
Yes.
what's your favorite color?
My favorite color is blue.
Okay. So it's you. Okay. It's our safe question.
We are safe. We are safe. Well, I think we should all embrace the technology and be smart about it. Be educated. You guys have been amazing talking with us today. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. And if anybody wants to check you guys out, how can bosses get in touch with you or see your work?
Let's see, in the website, LinkedIn. I'm in social media, Instagram. My name, Simone Kliass.
Okay.
And at Women in Voice, we have a lot of events. We're going to have a big event coming soon. And XRBR, we're here, So reach us and we'll be very happy to talk to the boss.
Yes. Thank you so very much.
And Jason.
Yes.
I have Gmail.
All right.
No, he has LinkedIn because he's not.
I'm not on all the social medias anymore, but
But you do have a website.
Yes.
Yeah, I do have my website and I do have LinkedIn, but
Tell what is your website?
just jasonbirmingham.com.
There you go.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But Ann, thank you so much.
Yeah.
And thank you also for we just love all of the information you're putting out there. And it's just, we're learning so much in this process.
Yes.
So it's exciting to be able to talk to people that are as excited about it as we are. So,
and you're a fabulous professional. You inspire us a lot. You know that.
Oh, you guys too. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I am going to give a great big shout out to our sponsor, IPDTL, because I was able to connect with these bosses today, Simone and Jason. Thank you guys. You guys can find out more at ipdtl.com. You guys have an amazing week, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
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 Join us next week for another edition of VO Boss with your host, Ann Ganguza. And take your business to the next level. Sign up for our mailing list at voboss.com and receive exclusive content, industry revolutionizing tips and strategies, and new ways to rock your business like a boss. Redistribution with permission, coast-to-coast connectivity via IPDTL.